are back on VADA Live, and I'm your host, Dan Carrigan. Joining us today is Matthew Vollmers, an instructor with NADA Academy. And like the other amazing guests we've had on with NADA Academy, Matt brings decades, 3 decades actually, of experience across dealership operations, OEM roles, training. And today we have a lot to discuss, perhaps where dealers can optimize training and their approach with customers, phone skills as well. Matt, thanks for joining us and welcome to VADA Live.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much, Dan.
Your background, Matt, worked across a lot of areas we had mentioned. Let's dive into where you see dealers right now. Strengths, weaknesses, and day-to-day ops. What's your view?
Well, I think the issue we get into is something that they've practiced for decades and multiple facets of that things they need to shed, in our opinion, that we're seeing that successful dealers do, and the tried and true traditions of building relationships. So you have on one hand, keep building those relationships over the decades, because when we take our academy class, we tell them, what do? We don't sell cars. What we do is build relationships, and the byproduct is we sell cars, we sell parts, we sell time. Now, those methodologies are still pretty solid today in building those relationships because people want to deal with who they know. On the second hand, what built empires over the last 40, 50 years of just get them in is waning. And the people that have transitioned beyond that, just get them in, and building relationships first, we're finding great success. And there's dealers throughout Virginia, the Mid-Atlantic, throughout the country that focus first on the relationship and let the sales be the byproduct of building that relationship. We're finding that it's not like instant success in our 30-day cycles, but it becomes a long-term success over the years.
What do you tell dealers who want to increase their relationships? I'm hearing you. This isn't something that happens overnight. How do you foster that?
Well, first of all, a lot of people get it stuck in not writing out what we call the J curve of change. So that little dip that comes into the business, and when you bring a new process in, you've got your older seasoned veterans, when it doesn't quite work the first time, can we just get back to selling cars? And if you're patient through that, because change literally is one of the most traumatic effects on the human physiology and mental state. It can physically make you sick. It can physically change your attitude. Just riding someone out and being patient with your team through that change is sometimes what I've seen dealers fail to do. 2-3 months in, it's not working. Let's get back to the old ways. Because granted, the respect I have for dealers who've built empires over the last 5-6 decades in those methodologies, I have immense respect for that. But this change has come, and we've seen major players come onto the marketplace who've affected those change and ridden out what I consider the J curve of change and really instilled that in their culture.
What is that J curve of change? I can visualize it. I need some help picturing that.
You bring a new aspect, and people will revolt against it instinctually, not even viscerally, not even recognizing that they're pushing back against that change. We'll say it in the academy. You want to put panic on your showroom floor. Announce a pay plan. New pay plan next month. There they'll go. And so in that aspect, managing your team through a change, being patient with them, showing the differential, showing why this is not, they're just looking to give us a haircut, is a provincial term within the industry. So you look at that, if you're willing to be with them and work with them. I've had examples where we changed pay plan at the dealerships where I was general manager, and we guided someone through it. And once he understood that this wasn't nearly a haircut or pay cut, we got buy-in. And easing people into it for buy-in and being consistent over time, that's how I've found with our students at the academy and myself personally that real change starts to take root.
When you walk into a dealership, maybe your last car buying experience, what do you see? What are the differentiators between running efficiently, leaving opportunity on the table?
So there's 2 things. You can look at a tangible metric, because you can look at their performance sheet and see that they're high PVR, high gross, or high volume, whatever it may be. But when you first step foot into a dealership, now there is an energy, there's a feel in the walls and stuff, and that's usually the first indicator before you look at facts. How are you greeted? How do you see teams interact? How is the facility? That whole sense of pride, that whole sense, it vibrates throughout the walls, for lack of a better way to put it. And customers can tell this has changed. Don't see a physical change, but you walk in and there's attitude, there's engagement, those are the first things when I walk into a store I look for. How am I greeted? How are people interacting with each other? You look behind the desk, you look behind the service area, you look at the reception, and all of that intangible parts that you see and you've absorbed. Then you start talking to the people, and then you get that effect of, well, this is how we engage our customers, and putting them first, because it's easy to say that. Putting them first is the next step, and it takes time. Walking through the door in that instant, it's all you get is inclinations first, and then you have to, confirm those inclinations.
Of your many specialty areas, one thing that really stood out to me, phone skills. Still a huge part today. I think for some folks watching this say, phone skills, aren't we? Or why care about this now? How much does it still matter to get it right?
So what they have to do is set the mindset. The old days when I grew up was check the local paper, go shop 4 or 5 dealerships. And every study has shown people do not visit 4 or 5 stores. They visit 1 to 2 at most, and then they come back multiple times to the same store. But we say this in our class. When a consumer picks up that phone to engage, how far down the funnel are they? And they're not shopping. They've selected a reason. And we get people on the phone and say, the mindset has to change of, I ask, what's the main goal of an inbound phone call? And they go, set an appointment. Now, I go, you need to banish that thought. And I always have to go, hear me out, because they're all like, they get all bristled up. I said, can I earn someone's respect over the phone? They'll answer yes. Can I make a promise and deliver on that promise over the phone? You get a yes. Am I able to offer time saving? I usually get a yes on that. Then I say, can I separate myself from the crowd? That's a term that I use with my children. Every day I drive my sons nuts because I say, what did you do today to separate yourself from the crowd? Small things. Can you do all of those on the phone? And everyone seems, usually get, yes, you can accomplish those things on the phone. Well, once you've done that, what do you then get? You usually get an appointment. And I go, an appointment that what? Shows an appointment that would likely purchase. Now, you still want the appointment, but you are getting there too quickly. Once you've built those core things, and once you understand that they're engaging you for a reason, instead of, oh, they're just shopping me, they're not that important. To me, someone on the phone should be someone who's sitting right in front of you, ready to take a test drive. That's the level we need to treat them and give them a reason to come in above our competitors. And once you separate yourself from the crowd, once you earn their trust, which can be accomplished on the phone, that whole mindset shift of, I'm not going to worry about an appointment. I'm going to establish these foundational issues first. The rest will follow. And that's the mindset dealers need to embrace and their staff needs to embrace.
What about that tough customer? Say I'm calling and I really am interested in this 2005, not picking one brand over the other, just top of mind, Chevy Tahoe. Yeah. I want $5K off or I'm not showing up. You have a game plan and say you have a team really well trained up on this stuff. How do you handle the curveballs and the tough stuff?
Well, what you want to do is first, you don't ever start with, it's that old sell this pen. Don't talk about the virtues of the pen. Find out why they're engaging you. Build a relationship. Now you will have obstinate customers and that's all they're into, and nothing is an absolute in what we do. And sometimes there's an old adage, give the customer what they want, when they want it, or go out of business. And if you do run into that obstinate customer, you have to give them what they're asking for. If they're really like, I know the car, I like the car, I want the car. What we find though is 2/3 of people who call in on unit A don't buy unit A. And in that process of building a relationship, you're going to find out more what they need, and you can say, great, happy to work with you on this. But we have other options that might suit better. Are you open to other options? You're always asking questions to keep the engagement going and building towards trust. I had one gentleman come in, a real hardcore Marine Corps colonel, absolutely, and he found a commonality through something we call a challenge coin. Once he saw that with the sales manager, he's like, oh, if you've been given one of those, you must be a good person. And then all the walls dropped. So finding a connection, even with the most obstinate customer, can drop a lot of those, how do I put this, those barriers that the customer's throwing up, because they still feel it's a combative experience when in reality, it shouldn't be. And a lot of people out in our industry, dealers around Virginia, dealers around the country, are making it less and less combative, and customers are responding to that.
One thing I've always found fascinating, and I know we had a list of questions, Matt, I'm off script all day today. One thing I've always found fascinating, and maybe it's the line of work I'm in, where you have your script, you have your plan, and that tough conversation comes on the one day where you're tired, where you may have had a flat tire, you're running on 3 hours of sleep, and this is one of the last things that you want to manage. And you have all the tools, but this is hitting on a day where this is really, really tough. Any words of wisdom to those who may not even see a tough conversation coming, but have to deal with it?
I'll loop it back to your first question. What do we sense when you walk into a store? If you have a culture of team, and there's days, there's an old adage, there's day you get the bear and the days the bear gets you. And there's just days where you're off. And if you're on a functioning team, everyone's got your back. That's the idea. I mean, we look at reviews and data that shows that the current generation of 18 to 35-year-olds don't want a cutthroat culture. They want a collaborative. They want a team environment. And you look at those that truly function as a team, where it's not about the credit, it's about the end result as a team. When you come in for a bad day, you're already going to have someone you can lean on. And there are times where I've seen where we've the salesperson is not connecting with you. We work as a team. Let me introduce you to another person. And doing that handoff without, oh, that's my split, that's my half, that cutthroat culture, because we all accomplish things together. And that takes time to build that. Over time in actions of leadership, over time of actions of coworkers. Once you can establish that, and I've seen that in stores all throughout Charlottesville and Winchester and Virginia, where you walk and you can see where they've got each other's backs. And you bring in thought leaders like Simon Sinek, who talk about the highest performing teams where they all have it. So even when you run into that buzzsaw of, it's just not my day, if they built that right culture, if they have that team environment, they can bring in a fresh face in a conversation makes a massive difference in engagement with the customer. Just like when that sales manager showed up and had the coin, everything changed because there was a commonality there.
Worth noting to those listening and viewing, Matt is from the Winchester area, Virginia, call-outs through and through. And Matt, one thing I found interesting, and this is one of the first times I've been hearing it and even working with NADA Academy instructors, all master trainers. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? How does that shape the work and really make a difference across the academy?
So what I look at is we constantly instill in our students that you're always learning, always growing, always training. We want folks that have real-world experience. I've worked for, like I said, several OEMs, ran some stores, came into it, and what we see is we invest in the students and their accomplishment. So what we look at as a master trainer program is we're training to be better communicators. A lot of times I find out students, when they come up to talk about the class, we always have some fun with them, call them the monster. We get trained on how to overcome that. We get trained on how to engage people, how to draw people out. And it's an effective tool, on the showroom floor. And part of the Master Trainer program is continually sharpening our skills. We're never ceasing. We're constantly training. And in communication, and because teaching is a different mindset than playing. And we always take a look at most of the legendary coaches were not epic players. Very few had the skill sets to do both. So you look at the balance of, how do you impart information that becomes usable efforts back at the store? And the Master Trainer program through the Association of Talent Development, we go through a core curriculum after a year of onboarding, because it's a lengthy onboarding system to learn not just what you know, but how to communicate that to where it has an impact. And then we go through this master program to learn how to communicate those things to our students, to communicate with each other. And we go even further. Most of our instructors are DISC profile certified. And they're always looking for new things to add. We're AFIP certified. So the education never stops. And if it's never stopping for us, that translates down to our students, who then bring it back to the dealership. And that's a critical aspect of why ATD training and everything we can get our hands on. AI certification, I have a feeling, might be coming soon for every academy instructor. But we have several that have taken the lead on that. And then we all go together as a team.
Your comments are reminding me of remarks Don Hall had made here at VADA related to the importance of continuing education. Find it fascinating that's happening on the inside of NADA Academy. What's your message to dealers who may have had a flat tire today, may be going on 3 hours of sleep? Why prioritize something like NADA Academy?
Well, there's other things that are out there that are strictly numbers, and numbers are a critical aspect of what we do. But like I said, we work in the relationship business, in my opinion, first. Now, you have to continually grow, and if we're going to ask our dealers to continually grow, we have to be doing that ourselves. And our job, in my opinion, is to bring what is the latest vetted, effective things. And there's a phrase throughout all of classes in the academy: the power of the room. So we're not just simply saying an instruction where we're pointing the finger and learn this or else. It's facilitation. It's drawing out things, because have you ever been in a room where you see them thinking and all of a sudden, everything you're bringing, it fits like dovetails and it clicks, and that light bulb goes off and they're off to the races. I'll give you one quick example. We do an assignment of building product lineups as in theory of why you should meet your customers' needs. And next thing you know, we give them 5 minutes to finish the exercise. The light bulbs go off, and we let them run for 10, 15 more minutes, because when you see someone inspired, don't hold them back. Let them run. And so much comes out of that unexpected inspiration. And that is our hope, that inspiration leads to something real they bring back. And it's in every course, from financial management to parts, which I consider the biggest week of discovery for most people that come through the academy, to service, to inventory and management for fourth week and the fifth week that I teach, and leadership 6. You get an incredibly well-rounded education in the business beyond the tangible and into the intangible of our human capital management and leadership, which is, in my opinion, 80% intangible, that aspect of that connection. And the academy, I think, brings all of the tangible and intangible aspects together over a year long of learning. And what I get the biggest thrill out of is I've watched for over 8 years of doing this, what happens to everyone's career, or the majority of people's careers, after the academy. Congratulations, you've graduated the academy. My fun term is launch time. It's what's next. This is not the end of your journey. You're clearing the launch pad. And I've seen it countless times. I graduated the academy, and I've seen my classmates go on to, buy out their partners, buy out their parents, grow from 4 stores to 10 stores. And that connection, because you go through so many things of tangible and intangible, that's what's the strongest bond that I think most people come out of the academy with. And that serves them for a lifetime beyond the numbers.
One question I wanted to ask you, Matt, we had discussed the importance of relationships, phone skills, arguably old school, perhaps some could say, digital, throwing that into the mix. You mentioned AI potential training at NADA Academy. All those things put together, where does digital play a role in your opinion and experience with that? All
right, so I'm going to back up. Back in the 90s, the internet was going to put us all out of business. It became an integral part of who we are. Then there were other corporations that single pricing and no negotiation. That's going to put us at, become an integral part of who we are. Digital platform. No one wants to integrate with a human. Well, studies have shown, like Domino's Pizza and others, that they still want that interaction. When I completed some advanced studies and I looked at changing buyer behavior, and this leads into digital corporations that were strictly digital, accelerated. But corporations that use digital platform and convenience for the customer. So putting both together, whether it's convenience on a digital platform, convenience in person, or a combination of the both. So dealers that have brought both of those to the table are the ones who've accelerated tremendous. Companies that have done that: Amazon, Netflix, Domino's Pizza, 3 unique, eclectic companies, but they've all brought convenience and that digital aspect where click a button, you get what you need. Customers still want personal engagement, but they want to save. What's the most valuable commodity to most people, 18 to 35? It's not money that drives them, it's time. What's most valuable to consumers? Time. You want a trusted source. And people that can leverage the digital platform to be convenient and time savings and still offer that personalized service, my experiential observations are they win more than others. So when dealers embrace digital, still leave the human factor in it and always take the aspect of, and I'm going to quote a fellow instructor who says, if Nana or your 13-year-old cannot purchase a car easily, you need to reevaluate what you're doing. And I love that aspect of, it should be easy and simple and at their terms. And the funny part about it I've picked up, when we give that customer, profitability tends to have a trend upward in that process.
Wow. So direct bottom line connection to that approach. Hypothetically speaking, say someone throughout their career have been inside those rooms and there is a tech solution, and organizations seem to be going all in on that digital solution. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate that? How should dealers, knowing that you can have people who are really excited about the tech and want to go all in, and that could come at the cost of some of the more human side you've discussed? What are your thoughts on trying to navigate that within an org itself, that we're excited, but sometimes that pendulum swings really far one direction or the other?
Well, my personal opinion is the pace of that pendulum swinging is the critical aspect, is the one, the faster it comes, the more you're going to get pushback from it. So, there's an old adage in some communities, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And the idea of when you slow down, you actually increase more. So I think the pendulum is going to swing regardless whether we fight it or whether we allow it to. It's coming. And it opened the doors for larger corporations that are now the largest used car sellers in the country. And back 30 years ago, everyone, they won't last. But it was slow and steady. It was consistent. So I think you're right. The pendulum will swing one direction or the other. I think it's how fast that pendulum comes through is the better you're going to have a time. And that patience of 6 months, a year, to allow things to really take hold. We've been building empires on 30-day cycles. And that, foundational change takes even longer than we think, in my opinion.
Take homes, Matt. What are 2 things dealers can do right now? What's the top line for them? Perhaps the toughest question I can ask you. What's the headline right now, or even when you're hearing from students, 2 things that can really help this day and age on the floor?
How do I phrase this? I'll get back to something I said earlier is, how do you make it convenient for the customer? If you were that customer, there was a former executive at a large motor manufacturer who would walk into the call center with all the new trainees and go, if your mother was on that line, how would you have responded? And this is a well-known brand that has accelerated tremendously over the last couple of decades. So think about that. Mom's walking in the store, how would you treat? And you think about that. We have certain people who the owner walks in and goes, look, this is my friend, not a friend. He knows what I did in 5th grade. Take care of them. You may not like the deal, but it's how would you treat every customer? Because think about this, the happy customer that loves you, that brings you cookies after you've sold them the car, we have the best profitability on those customers because they saw value in the relationship. So if you want to bring that change, that's the first mindset. And unfortunately, changing mindset of habits that have been invoked for us for decades is a slow and arduous process. And patience by leadership and patience with customers, because, once you say, trust me, we've changed, skeptics usually show up first. And so the first things you can do and talk to them about is, how do you want to treat our customers? Always the baseline of how would you be treated? And that sea change is, I think, the first foundational block. And patience by leadership is a critical aspect too, to see those changes through over the long term. It yields results. And there's groups out there that have done that and have gone through the J curve and have come out better off for it. It's just hard to change old habits after 4 or 5 decades of building empires around and building lives and families around what methodologies work. And I understand why there's that resistance to change.
Matt, really appreciate our conversation and insight today. You've been hearing from Matthew Vollmers, who is an instructor with NADA Academy. And we thank you for watching another episode of VADA Live. I'm Dan Carrigan, and we really hope to see you next time.